A father and son hear a low growl before pandemonium breaks out. They find themselves in the middle of a bear attack in the remote Alaskan wilderness. In the commotion, the son shoots himself in the leg. It's a fight for survival. Hit like and subscribe. This is fierce. On August 17th, 2024, father and son, Chris and Tyler Johnson, were on a hunting trip in the Alaskan wilderness. They were hiking through woodland on the Kenai Peninsula in south-central Alaska. Known as Alaska's playground, the Kenai Mountains are covered in glaciers, the flatter regions of the peninsula dotted with lakes, and the salmon-rich Kenai River sweeps through the valleys. Wildlife in the region includes moose, lynx, wolves, coyotes, porcupine, and of course black and brown bears. But the brown bear population, sitting at fewer than 600 individuals, are considered a unique and isolated population. Despite this, hunting bears is still allowed in Kenai, but it is heavily restricted and the area draws hunters from far and wide to experience its natural beauty. After following the Resurrection Pass Trail, Chris and Tyler headed off the path, cutting through the foliage, searching for any sign of their game. They were seasoned hunters, both drawn to the great outdoors and the thrill of the hunt, both experienced and respectful during their adventures. Their backpacks were bulging, full of their equipment, their hunting rifles strapped to the side of them. Chris walked with 2 walking poles and Tyler with a pistol in a holster on his hip. They also carried with them a trauma kit and sat phone. They were always prepared when they went out into the wilderness, as you never know what might happen. I was always better to be safe than sorry. They were heading straight into bear country, further away from civilization, and were now about 2 miles from the nearest road. Help was a long way away if they needed it. It was hard going, traipsing through the long undergrowth, but up ahead there was more light and it opened out into a grassy plain bordered by rolling mountains. The area was covered in tall, thick grass. Any animal lying down in the grass could easily be concealed as the 2 men lifted their feet through it. And that turned out to be the case. Not long after Chris and Tyler began their steady march across the grassland, they heard a low growl and were immediately charged by a brown bear. They hadn't seen it or any sign of it, and there was no mock charge or other warning. The enormous grizzly, weighing up to 200 kilograms, 440 pounds, thundered through the undergrowth across the grass. Her thick fur rippling on her bulky frame, her heavy paws pounding the ground as she ran at Chris. He shouted at her to try and deter her, waving his hands in the air. But she didn't stop. Instead, at the last second, she dived onto Tyler. As he felt the full force of the bear crash into him, he instinctively pulled his 10mm pistol from his holster before he hit the ground. The bear then began mauling him. A total of 4 seconds had passed from the moment they heard the growl to the moment the bear struck Tyler. There was little time to react, but Tyler's instinctive hunting expertise may have just saved his life. But his mistake may also cost it. When he fell backwards from the hit and grabbed his pistol, he shot himself in the upper leg, missing the bear entirely. He let out a yell and landed with a thud on the ground. A second later, and the bear's teeth ripped into Tyler's leg, biting his calf. He didn't feel anything at first. The adrenaline was surging through his body, masking the pain and urging him to fight back. In the commotion, he shot at the bear repeatedly. He continued to pepper it with bullets, emptying the entire clip into the animal. 7 bullets in total. But the bear continued to fight back. It was mortally wounded, but it carried on until its dying breath, something Tyler remembers vividly. As the attack continued, Chris intervened and fired his .40 Glock, finally killing the bear. When the bear slumped and lay motionless next to Tyler, the 2 men could assess the damage it had done. There was blood oozing out of Tyler's wounds, but he was able to keep himself calm. The injuries felt more like cramp and pressure in the leg than a gunshot wound and a bear mauling. The bullet from Tyler's own gun had torn through his thigh, in one side and out the other. He was lucky he hadn't hit an artery and that the bullet had made it out without becoming lodged somewhere. The two men got to work tending to the wounds. Chris was an Alaska state trooper who served with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for more than 30 years. He was familiar with bear attacks and had attended to victims of them in the past. He had vital first aid skills and immediately set to work on his 32-year-old son. He tied a tourniquet around Tyler's leg to slow the bleeding and then wrapped the wounds with gauze. Being experienced outdoorsmen, they carried with them a satellite phone, and Chris sent an SOS to emergency troopers. Now they had to wait. Whilst waiting for help to arrive, Tyler picked up his phone and made a video about the ordeal. He spoke calmly in front of the camera, recounting exactly what had happened. But there was something that was puzzling the two men. The bear had acted unusually aggressively. It had attacked without warning, something that wasn't common. There was no mock charge, clacking of the jaws, or prolonged growling. They had come across bears before and had hunted black bears on previous hunting trips. Perhaps there was a reason this bear had behaved in that way. Once Tyler had recorded the videos, the pain started to kick in. The adrenaline had worn off, and now the wait for the emergency evacuation was excruciating. The pain hit him like a truck. Sweat poured from his forehead and his heart rate shot up. Tyler had to do everything in his power to keep himself calm, trying to focus on anything but the pain. He used breathing techniques to help him through the worst of it. But he had his dad by his side every step of the way, encouraging him and keeping him calm. And he couldn't think of anyone better to go through that with. It wasn't long before the familiar sound of a helicopter ricocheted through the air, and Tyler was airlifted off the Kenai Peninsula. He was taken to hospital in Anchorage, where he spent a number of days recovering from his ordeal. He was due to start a new job in Austin, Texas, right after the hunting trip, but had to delay his start date. His wife and children had already made the move, and he was able to join them a week later. State troopers returned to the area following the attack and found a bear cub near the scene. It now became clear why the bear had acted so aggressively towards the two men. She was protecting her young. It is not known what happened to the cub without its mother. The attack hasn't put Tyler or his father off hunting together. Tyler knows that they survived the ordeal because they were so well prepared. It could have been a very different ending if he had been hunting alone or if they hadn't packed the trauma kit. His love for the mountains and the glaciers of the Alaskan wilderness wasn't deterred by the bear attack, and he looks forward to the next hunting trip, side by side with his father.